It all started when my friend Sarah invited me to a party. But this wasn't your average college house party or weekend hangout. This was something different. The Red Nail Club, she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. It's a secret, underground group. No one talks about it. You need to be invited, and I got us in. At first, I thought she was joking. Sarah had always been into weird stuff, urban legends, creepy internet stories, anything that gave her a thrill. But when she showed me the invite, a simple red card with nothing but the words, "The Red Nail Club," embossed on the front, I started to take her seriously. "What is it?" I asked, turning the card over in my hands. There was no date, no time, no location. Just that cryptic name. Sarah leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. "It's this exclusive club. They throw these insane parties, but it's more than just that. People say strange things happen there. People disappear. But it's all just rumors, right? People disappear." I repeated, my stomach twisting. That doesn't sound like something I want to be a part of. Sarah waved a hand dismissively. "Come on, it's probably just hype to make it sound cooler than it is. You know how these things go. It will be fun." I wasn't convinced, but Sarah had a way of getting under my skin. I had known her long enough to realize that once she got an idea in her head, there was no changing it. And besides, she looked so excited. I didn't want to be the one to ruin it. So, I agreed. The night of the party, we met at Sarah's apartment to get ready. She had picked out a sleek, black dress for herself and something similar for me. "We've got to look the part," she said with a grin. I laughed nervously, trying to play along. But something about the whole thing felt off. There was this weight in the air, this strange sense of dread that I couldn't shake. By the time we were ready, it was almost midnight. Still, we had no idea where the party was. Sarah hadn't been told directly, and there were no instructions on the invite. I was about to ask her if maybe we'd been pranked when she pulled out her phone. "Got a message," she said, holding it up so I could see. The message was from an unknown number. It had a single line of text: "Meet at the alley behind 48th Street at 12:30. Knock 3 times. That's it?" I asked, feeling a little uneasy. "That's it," Sarah confirmed, her eyes gleaming with excitement. We arrived at the alley just before 12:30. The place was dark, barely lit by a single flickering streetlight at the entrance. I hesitated at the mouth of the alley, glancing at Sarah. "Are you sure about this?" She didn't answer me right away. She was already halfway down the alley, moving toward a metal door hidden behind some old trash cans. I hurried to catch up with her, my heart racing. When we reached the door, Sarah knocked 3 times, just like the message had instructed. For a moment, nothing happened. I could hear my pulse pounding in my ears, the silence around us growing thicker by the second. Then, with a loud creak, the door opened. A man stood there, dressed in a dark suit with red gloves. He didn't say a word, just stepped aside to let us in. Sarah, as always, didn't hesitate. She walked right through the door like she'd done this a million times before. I followed her, feeling the cold metal of the door brush against my arm as I stepped inside. The room we entered was dimly lit, with low, red lights casting spooky shadows on the walls. It was packed with people, all dressed in black, most of them wearing masks that covered the upper halves of their faces. The air smelled faintly of perfume and smoke, and there was a soft hum of conversation, though no one seemed to be talking loudly. "This is weird," I muttered under my breath. Sarah smiled. "Isn't it amazing? It's like something out of a movie." I didn't feel amazing. I felt like I was being washed. The atmosphere was heavy, And the way everyone in the room moved, so slow and deliberate, it was almost unnatural. A woman in a long, red dress approached us. Her face was hidden behind a black, feathered mask, and her nails, long, sharp, and painted a deep, crimson red, stood out against her pale skin. "Welcome," she said softly, her voice smooth and cold. "You're new?" I nodded, glancing nervously at Sarah. "Yeah, it's our first time." The woman's lips curved into a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sure you'll enjoy yourselves. The Red Nail Club is a special place." She reached out and gently touched my arm, her nails scraping against my skin just enough to make me shiver. Then, without another word, she turned and disappeared into the crowd. I looked at Sarah. "I don't like this." Sarah waved me off. "Relax, it's just a party. Let's get a drink." We made our way to the bar, where a bartender in a red mask handed us 2 cocktails. The drinks were dark red, almost like blood, and had an odd metallic taste. I didn't like it, but I drank it anyway, trying to ignore the growing feeling of dread building in my stomach. As the night went on, the atmosphere grew stranger. The people around us didn't seem to be getting drunk or rowdy like at normal parties. Instead, they moved slowly, gracefully, almost like they were performing some kind of dance. Every now and then, someone would slip away into one of the shadowy corners of the room, disappearing from sight. "I want to leave," I said, leaning in close to Sarah. "Something's not right." Sarah rolled her eyes. "You're being paranoid. Look, everyone's just having a good time. You need to chill." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. I scanned the room, noticing how the masked figures seemed to be watching us, their eyes glinting from behind the masks. And then I saw her again, the woman in the red dress, her sharp red nails catching the light as she watched me from across the room. "I'm serious," I whispered urgently. "We need to go." Sarah opened her mouth to argue, but before she could say anything, the lights in the room dimmed even further. A hush fell over the crowd as the woman in the red dress stepped up onto a small platform in the center of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying through the silence. "Welcome to tonight's special event." The crowd around us murmured in anticipation, and I felt my heart skip a beat. "We are honored to have new guests with us tonight," the woman continued, her eyes locking onto mine. "And as tradition dictates, the new must be initiated." My stomach dropped. "What's happening?" I whispered to Sarah, but she didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the woman in red, her expression almost entranced. Before I could say anything else, 2 men in dark suits appeared at our sides, their hands resting lightly on our shoulders. "Please come with us," one of them said, his voice polite but firm. I glanced at Sarah, but she seemed to be in some kind of daze. Reluctantly, we followed the men as they led us toward the platform where the woman in the red dress stood waiting. As we approached, the crowd parted, their masked faces watching us intently. I could feel my pulse racing, my palms sweating as we climbed the steps to the platform. The woman smiled as we reached her, her eyes gleaming with a strange, unsettling light. "For centuries, the Red Nail Club has welcomed those who seek something more," she said, her voice soft but commanding. "Tonight, you will become part of something greater than yourselves." I didn't like the way she said that. "Not at all. I don't want to be a part of this," I whispered, panic rising in my chest. But no one seemed to hear me. The woman raised her hands, her long red nails glinting in the dim light, and the crowd began to chant softly under their breath. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound was low and rhythmic, like a hum that vibrated through the air. "We offer you a choice," the woman said, her eyes boring into mine. "You can join us, or you can leave. But know this, once you leave, you can never come back." "I want to leave," I said quickly, my voice trembling. I want to leave right now. Sarah didn't say anything. She just stared at the woman in red, her face blank, her eyes glassy. You cannot leave without your friend, the woman said, her voice cold. She has chosen to stay. What? I spun around to face Sarah, grabbing her by the shoulders. Sarah, we have to go. Now. But she didn't respond. It was like she wasn't even there anymore. Sarah! I shouted, shaking her. But she just stood there, staring blankly ahead. The woman in red stepped closer to me, her sharp nails grazing my arm as she whispered in my ear. She belongs to us now. No, I whispered, backing away. No, this isn't happening. But it was happening. And as I looked around at the masked faces in the crowd, I realized that I was completely alone. I don't remember much after that. I remember running, pushing through the crowd, my heart pounding in my chest. I remember the cold night air hitting my face as I burst through the metal door and into the alley. I remember the sound of footsteps behind me, echoing through the dark, empty streets as I ran. I didn't stop running until I was miles away, gasping for breath, my legs burning with exhaustion. I collapsed onto a bench, my mind racing, trying to make sense of what had just happened. When I finally got home, I tried calling Sarah, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I tried texting her, but the messages didn't go through. I never saw her again. The police said she probably just ran off, that maybe she'd gotten involved in something she didn't want to talk about. But I know the truth. She didn't run off. She didn't disappear. She was taken. And wherever she is now, she's part of the Red Nail Club. I'll never forget that night, the sound of that strange chant, the sharp, red nails glinting in the dark. And I'll never go looking for answers. Because some things are better left unknown. Dear listeners, I would like to clarify that the story you have just listened to is a work of fiction and not based on real events or individuals, including myself. While some elements of the story may be inspired by real-life experiences or observations, the characters, events, and situations portrayed are entirely fictional. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story, and I hope you enjoyed the fictional journey it took you on. Thank you. Subscribe, like, and comment for more stories.